How about now? That better? Yay! Okay, I'm such a dummy. Seriously, I am so tech challenged. If you were on my call last week, you'll know this. Okay, so we had several people sign up for this class, and I'm going to be super sad if they come in this late because they may get a little bit lost. So I wanted to wait just a few seconds before we get started, just so that we can give them an opportunity to jump in, because I'll feel bad if they see right in the middle of it. So just a couple of things while we've got a little bit more of an intimate group today, which I'm kind of glad. Last week after our meeting, I was telling Maddie, I just want to do just a fun, like random, let's just do a class on a Friday. We've never done a class on a Friday, because if I were you, I would be trying to find something else to do other than work on Friday too. So, but I thought, you know what, we're just going to do one today. One of my most favorite classes is the investor class. Literally for me, it was one of those game changers in my business. And it really kind of helped give me the confidence that I needed to really know that I was in the right business, really. Like, I knew that I could hold a conversation with those investors and I could kind of hold my own. So as more people are getting in here, how many people, I got to see this view because I want to see everybody here. How many people, this is your first time being on a meeting with me today, or have you been on a meeting with me before? First timers, hi Kara, cutie. I love your hair, it looks so good. Okay, good. So for you first timers that are in here, I just wanted to introduce myself right quick. I'm Nicole Briggs. I've had a lot of people join my Facebook group in the last week or two, which has been really fantastic. So if you heard of me through the Facebook group, the Real Estate Talk for Women, thank you for joining us over in here. I just love the whole sharing information about our real estate business. And I feel like all too often we get way too competitive with each other or competitive within our office, where we don't share. Like we'll give you like a little piece of what we do, but we're not going to give you the full thing, right? Like, because we're in competition with you. So what I love is, even though I've got gals on here that are in my marketplace, I absolutely love it, because a couple of them are in my brokerage. Some I just know from my past life when I was at a nail salon, which I love that they're in the real estate business now with me. At the end of the day, 9 times out of 10, we're not going to be competing on the same property anyhow. So why wouldn't we just share strategies? There's enough business for everybody. And I feel like if you can come from a place of always helping, you'll always get what you need, and you'll always have what you need. Early on in my career, for those of you that are new, how many people are like under 2 years or newer? Anybody? Yeah. So 2 years or newer, you're like grasping at straws, trying to find information as much as you can, because it's so overwhelming. And if you've come from another profession, which I really loved, in my Facebook group, they were talking about, put in what your past profession was. And that was so cool to see. Like, we all come from different backgrounds. Some of us have been in corporate, some of us have been in the medical field. I saw some police officers. I saw a whole gamut of people. And what it let me know is that there's such a need for us to have a platform that we can sit and chat about, and we can talk on, that's going to be 100% just real estate agents. So I don't have to be sold on any of the advertisement crap. I don't want any more pieces of advertisement. If I want to advertise for something, I will definitely reach out and seek after that, but I'm definitely not going to go to my Facebook group for that. My Facebook group is to chat about strategies and learn how to become a better real estate agent. And if we can put those thousands of years of experience together and learn from each other, I just like it so beneficial. So for those of you that are new in the real estate industry, welcome, because this is really, like, I am definitely not one of those professionals that has this, huge platform and stage that I stand on. And I've been to several of those. And in my last meeting, I shared for a quick second how I've never felt so small. I've never felt so small. Then the last one that I went to, there was 20,000 people that were there. And the people that were on the stage, I couldn't resonate with them, even though they were all women. They all were doing huge business. They all had huge teams. I just have, hi, Jessica, I see you. They all have huge businesses and big teams. And I needed the dumbed down version, for lack of a better words, of how do I get my business going? How do I maintain? I have a small team. I've since grown since that meeting from 3 buyer agents to 5. However, I needed to know how to continue having success in my team business while holding the fort down in my real estate business. So after these meetings, people always message me with emails, which I love, asking me additional questions. So one of the questions I got after this meeting was, are you still in production? So yes, I am still in production. I run 3 different businesses: my own personal real estate business, my team business, and then I have this mentorship coaching business that I've started last year, in the spring of last year. And so yes, I'm still in production. Last year I was on track to hit 50, and I hit shy of my numbers. I mean, that's just me. When I put a number out there, I'm like, okay, well, dang, I might hit 50. I think I had 46 or 48 by the time I ended the end of the year. I don't know. I was close, but I don't know. It's like just under 15 million in volume. So yes, I'm in there with you. I'm in it. I'm doing it. I'm doing the multiple offers right along with you. So in 15 years of experience, my first 5 I call my real estate boot camp. So this, I'll always refer to the real estate boot camp when we're on these meetings, because that really was where I realized I needed to do something different. I needed something different. What I was listening to were a bunch of men. I love men. Don't get me wrong. I've married 26 years and I love my husband. However, the programs I was following and the schedules that they were asking me to do, were not conducive to taking care of my family. It just wasn't. Like, I was sucking as a mom, and that is hard to do, you know? So I tried to find a different way, and this is kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing, is because I want to share with you guys what it takes and what I learned along the way. So hopefully you don't have to have the same experiences that I did. So let's get into that. So thanks everyone for being here. Hopefully I answered any questions about who I am. I live in little town of St. George, Utah, just in the bottom corner of our state. It doesn't snow here, thank goodness, but half of California is moving here. So if you're a California person, send your referrals to us, because we love you here, and we have a great city, and it's a great place to be. So also, while I'm on that point, for those of you that need referrals and you don't know someone in another state, message me, because I mean, like I'm chatting with people across the country. I hooked up some Georgia people to an Arizona agent the other day, and that's so great to be able to go to the Facebook group and put in there that you're looking for someone, and know that you're passing someone off that you're gonna, that you can have conversations with and that you're connected with. So super cool. I love to network, so let's keep doing that. Okay, let's get into it. So why do I love the investor field so much? Okay, well, so I'm telling you about the real estate boot camp. Those first 5 years I worked in that office. We would all compete for the same properties. I would have a list of multiple unit owners, and we literally would call, hi, I'm looking for the owner of the property located, on 7th Street. Are you the owner? Yes, I am. Okay, great. Looks like it's a duplex. Yes, it is. I was just giving you a call just to see if you'd ever thought about selling it. Not a really great script, but that's the script we used. No, I haven't thought about it. Okay, good. It's doing really well for you. Yes, it is. Okay, great. So let me just ask you this. Have you ever thought about buying any more? So we just were really good at prospecting multiple unit owners, because I did it every day. So, but the thing is we were in this pod, right, where we all were prospecting in the same room. So we're all prospecting the same list. And then once we would set an appointment, like we'd say to them, well, if there was a way that I could show you how you could actually capitalize on your portfolio and you could actually do better, is that something you want to take a look at? And of course they'd say yes. Okay, good. So as soon as I'd set an appointment, they're like, dang. So they would try to call the person that I was calling, and they're like, the only reason why you got it was because you're a woman. Okay, super. And they're like, then when I come back with a listing, they're like, the only reason why you got it was because you're pretty. Okay, thanks. So I decided at that moment, I will be the smartest person in that office. Or I may not be the smartest, but I'm gonna be freaking smart. I'm gonna know cap rates. I'm gonna know inside and out how to help my investors not just respect me for being a professional in the business, but they're also going to listen to my advice, and I'm gonna make them good money, okay? So call it a chip on your shoulder if you want. Got it. Do you want to call it a chip on your shoulder? I like chips on my shoulder. It makes me do better. It's totally fine. But I took it as an opportunity. And I think that that's the way that we have to look at it, as instead of being irritated or butthurt about it, we just have to look at it as an opportunity to go, okay, what do I need to do to step up my game? So here's what I did. So here, let me get to my notes. Last time I had difficult time with my notes, but I've got them all set here today because I want to be sure that I cover everything. 3 ways for you to become the go-to investor's agent is going to be the following. Okay. First is knowing what to say to them. Okay. Knowing how to deliver a cap rate, knowing what that cap rate is. The second is knowing once you ask those pre-qualifying questions, what do we do next? I mean, that's great that you know how to figure out a cap rate, but how are you going to actually speak eloquently to an investor? All right. And then the third thing would be reviewing property and knowing how to review property at a quick glance, and being able to convey to your clients what the good deals are and what aren't. So let me ask you this. How many people have spoken to investors and they have said some of these things, some of the following? The first one would be, let's see, what did I say? So the first one would be, I only want to look at properties that have 20% equity. Oh, okay, great. So does everybody. I mean, like that's a funny statement to me when I talk to someone, they're like, I'm looking for properties that have 20% equity. Well, aren't we all? I mean, that would be nice if we all could walk in at 20% equity. How many times does that ever happen? I mean, like slim to none, right? Okay, the other thing would be, I'm looking to buy an investment property that cash flows. How many people have heard that? I mean, that's like a definite, everyone always wants to have it cash flow. So when someone asks that question, I have follow-ups to these, so I'm going to get into those. The last one, what was the last one I was saying? I didn't write that last one down. Oh yeah, I'm looking to flip a property. We can thank Joanna Gaines for this one because they made that super popular on HGTV. Everybody wants to be a fix and flipper. And I have answers to those as well, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about what a cap rate is, okay? So just kind of getting into it, cap rates are, by definition, it's the rate of return that is expected to be generated on a real estate investment property, right? That's the amount that they are expecting to gain once they purchase this property. There's some qualifying questions when we're asking what a cap rate is. I'm trying to decide if I want to give you the formula first or, so let's talk about those questions first. So I wish I could role play with somebody. So if I was calling and someone said, I'm looking for an investment property, my first question to them is always, okay, great. That sounds fantastic. So tell me what type of investment property you're looking at. Every investor has a type. It's kind of like dating. Everyone has a type. And the reason why is because they're comfortable with that type of property. So then we're going to ask a second question, which is a follow-up. Because if they say, well, I don't know, I'm just looking for something that's okay, good. Whatever they tell you, it doesn't matter. The next question is, do you currently own an investment property? This is such a huge qualifying question because this is a fork in the road for me. This is like where you'll decide, I'm leading this conversation or I need to let this investor know I know my stuff and I'm going to lead him. All too often we get too intimidated by investors because we think, oh, they're so savvy. They know what they're talking about. They're throwing out all these terms. And whenever they call me and they're like, yes, could you get me the pro forma, blah, blah, blah. Sure. So I think that that's great. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have time to like preview every single property and figure out a perfect pro forma that has like rents, utilities, HOA fees. We start calculating in the vacancy rates, right? Like I don't have time for that. So I'm here today to show you a quick method to move through those properties quickly so that you can identify the good ones from the bad ones and then you go do the homework. Does that make sense? So that second question, do you own any properties? So if they say no, that's like my favorite answer. If they say no, I'll say, okay, great. This is your first investment property. You can imagine as a real estate agent, we see hundreds of properties come across our desk every day, hundreds, like they just get listed. And the only way that we can determine what a good cap rate is, or if it's going to be a good return, is for us to sit down and either, we're going to have an appointment. First of all, I'm setting an appointment to have this conversation face to face, but if I'm talking to them over the phone, the only way for us to determine this is to figure out, there's a formula for this. And I tell them, can I share that with you so that it makes sense? And I say it to them at first. And then once I explain it to them, I literally write it out, make them do it. So it's literally your monthly rents times 12 to get your annual rents less 35%. So you're taking 35% right off the top off of your rents. And then you got to make sure you hit equals so you can get that total. And then you divide it into the price. And that will get you your cap rate. So good question is, why do we do 35% expenses? Tell me, Jessica. Unmute you. Where are you? Hang on. I gotta unmute you, Jessica. Hang on. I can't do it. There you go. Can you hear me? Stand by, Jessica. I can't hear her. Can you hit unmute, Jessica? I can't hear you.
I did.
Oh, you did. Oh, wait, I got to turn you up. Hey, dummy, that's on me. Oh, there's a volume button. Girl. Okay, go ahead.
Can you repeat? I'm trying to write this down and
Yeah.
I didn't get it. Could you repeat that formula again, please?
Yep, it's going to be rents times 12 minus 35%. Make sure you hit equals. And then divide that number into the purchase price. I'm going to go through an example with you guys so that we can do it together, okay? So what did you ask me, Maddie? So the question is, so I tell them there's a way for us to figure out what property is. And then I tell them in our marketplace, a cap rate right now, like we are in a crazy market right now, so our cap rate is terrible. But before this thing happened, before the end of the year, our cap rate was running at about 4% or less. Like sometimes I see properties selling at 3.5%, which is crazy, 4% or less. My rule of thumb for me, for my investors, I try to get them at least better than market by a 1 or 2%. So I'm looking at a 5 or 5.5 right now in this marketplace, and my investors will love me. So the reason why we need to know the constant for our market is so that when we're talking to them, we can tell them when properties are coming on the market, and I've reviewed all those, out of the 10 properties that are all multifamily that you're looking at, that you're interested in, there's only one that's over a 4%. So don't ask me for a spreadsheet on the ones that are 3.5, because they're a no, right? Because they don't make any sense. So the only ones that we would be looking at is the one that has the higher cap rate. Does that make sense? Okay, so knowing what that number looks like, you got to know what your market average is for cap rates. If you don't, you're not giving them solid advice. And I would recommend that you check that cap rate every month. Unless your market's being really stagnant, but once a month, you should be pulling up multifamilies, go pull up the duplex apartment complexes and go see what the average cap rate is. And what I do is I print them in the list view on the MLS, in the Flex, or whatever your list view looks like. So it's got all the properties in one line. And I literally go through and figure out all the cap rates. And you can only see the rents, in their full form, of course, not in a list view, but you got to have the rents in order to figure out the cap rate. That's another thing. If you're going to list a property that's an investment property and you don't put the rents in, what are you doing? You are doing your client a huge disservice, right? I don't know about you guys, but I see advertisements where it'll come across the MLS and they'll be like, 9 cap, this is an amazing investment. And then I'm like, okay, just for fun, I'll message them, hey, what are the rents? And then they give me the rents. Well, I'm not quite sure. They're low right now. They always could go higher. Yeah, well, we don't buy on that. So I have them send me the rents and then I run them, and they didn't take off any expenses. They didn't run the cap rate with expenses, because I'll just do the price and divide it by what their rent is, and they've not taken off money for expenses. So be cautious, when someone sends something across your MLS and it says it's a good deal, or you hear it's a good deal, if you don't have your rents, you can tell them, without the rents, I don't know How do you know? So you'll sound so much more savvy by knowing those things, by just saying, okay, great, I'm happy to figure out what the rate of return is. I just need to know what the rents are. And if they say, well, we're not sure, or, well, they're not currently rented right now. Okay, good. Can I get a copy of the past rent rolls, or can you show me what, tell me what they were rented at so that I have an idea? Like, we got to know that. So if I were you, I would make good friends, and Candace Cather isn't on here, but I use Candace here locally I message her all the time. Hey, can you give me an idea what this property rents for? And I'll send her a copy of the MLS. Be prepared when you're bugging our rental agencies. Be prepared with the information that they need. They don't want to, just send them a copy of the MLS sheet. Say, hey, I'm sending you a copy of an MLS sheet. Could you tell me an estimate of what the rents would be? They have limited time and they're doing us a solid, but in turn, I'll give her every single investor I get that needs property management. I send them to her. It's a reciprocating business that we're in, So, okay, so back to cap rate. So knowing how to figure out what that cap rate is. So that fork in the road that I said, when they say they don't know, I of course explain to them, okay, great. Well, let me just share with you what our average cap rate is here in our marketplace and how I figure those, so that when you're looking on the MLS and I'm sending you properties, you can go ahead and jot down that formula, and you'll know as well as I will which ones are good ones too. Educate your clients as you go. It's so good, because then once they see a good one, they're calling you saying, hey, Nicole, I really like that one. Should we make an offer on that? Yes, we should. Now you're the expert, okay? If they say, so let's go back to the fork, and they say, actually, yes, I own several. Great. That's fantastic. So tell me, most investors have a type of property that they tend to lean towards. What type of properties do you currently own? You have to know what they own so that you know their type, because an investor, sometimes they'll be really vague with you, especially if you're not like their lead agent. They'll be like, oh, I just like whatever. I just like whatever's going to make me money. Okay, great. That's nice. But like, I'm serious about it and I know what I'm talking about. So then I'll say, great, tell me which type of properties you own. So if they tell me that they own, I've had one guy say I own 17, or maybe they own 5. Okay, great. So tell me a little bit about the properties that you own. How long have you owned them? You want to know how long they've owned them? If an investor has kept a property for longer than 9 years, 9 years is like the golden number. 9 years is when HVACs were down. It's when AC units go out. Water heaters need to be replaced. 8 to 9 years is kind of a good rule of thumb that they'll be turning a property. So if they've said they've owned it forever and they're all paid off, great. So they're no longer there's no longer any tax advantages for you if they're all paid off, right? They're not writing off interest. They're no longer, like, how long have you owned it? If it's longer than 27 and a half years, because that's how long you can depreciate an investment property. We'll talk about that if you don't know what that means, but you can depreciate for 27 and a half years. If they've owned it longer than that, they're at the end of their depreciation schedule too. So they're getting no tax benefit anymore, except for putting cash in their pocket, which they now have to claim as income. So the question would be, I know it feels good to have them all paid off. Are you interested in picking up any more so that you can start to capitalize on some of the benefits and tax savings? They really buy them as a tax shelter. They really do. And so the ones that are savvy, that know what they're doing, they know that they're getting at the end of their depreciation schedule and they need to make a move. Okay, great. So then we're going to move it into a 1031, which is super fun. That's an all cash deal, 1031s. So it's really fun when you can get those investors under your wing and you can convey to them, okay, great, let's go through your properties. It looks like this one, let's look and see which one's not performing the best based on rents. What are you getting for rent? How much did you pay for it? You're going to run that exact same formula that I gave you, and you'll go through all their properties. Like if you sit down and say, hey, and he says, I'm trying to make a move in my portfolio. Great. I'd love to give you an idea as to which ones we probably should get rid of based on current market conditions. Because they're wanting to make a move and they need to reinvest their money. So you run the cap rates on all of them and then you say, okay, well, the property 1, 2, and 3 are doing really good, but 4 and 5, like they're at 2%. Like right now we can make a purchase and we can do better. We can be, we can double that, maybe even triple. We could probably find a 6%, but we can put that one up for sale and we can just do a 1031 and we'll put you into something else that's going to perform better. I mean, that's a no-brainer for them because they're not making any money. And once they see what that looks like, then they're like, oh, okay. And then they know that you know what you're talking about. But having that formula in your back pocket and getting very, very good at knowing how to work it is the best part. So my recommendation to you would be in the in Inflex, pull a list of the multiple unit owners that have recently sold in the last 30 days, and then practice on your own and figure out what the cap rates are. You'll get very, very good at it, I promise. And then every day when they come on the market, now if you have a couple investors that you work with, you know when you can reach out to them. You can tell them, hey, a couple came on the market that looks solid. Just wondering if you're ready to make your move. Any questions on any of that so far? It's kind of a lot. I'm going to do the example on the, I'm going to try to do it on the whiteboard. So we'll see if I can figure that out because I practiced it earlier. So we'll see. Okay, so let's do it. Let me see. Let me just check the chat. Kara, I've done a few 1031. They aren't too bad if you find the experts in title escrow companies in your area who can really help you and your buyer sellers. 100%. So I have done exchanges with First American Title. I know that they're national. They actually have a 1031 exchange department, which is really great. Get to know the person. If you don't know who that person is in your area, call into First American and just put in a phone call to the 1031 exchange department so that you have a person to go to and just call them and introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm Nicole Briggs. I'm a real estate agent. I'm starting to work with investors and 1031s are coming across my desk. I'd love to send the file to you. Can you shoot me over your contact information? So I've got a go-to person to go through. Like, I want to have everyone in my back pocket. So if an investor says, I don't really have a title company here local, do you have one? Yes, I do. And I can just pick up the phone and she knows already who I am because I've already established that relationship. Okay. Chelsea, yeah, okay. Oh, I know this 1031s are so crazy. So 1031s are just an exchange for like property. So when you have an investment property, it really is a tax shelter and it is a way for you to not pay capital gains. It's a deferment of taxes is what it is. And it will keep deferring as long as you continue to keep rolling that money into the next investment, into the next investment. At any time, if you take cash out of that exchange, you owe capital gains tax. You owe taxes on that property. So 1031s, there's an addendum for that in my marketplace. I'm sure there's one for yours where you need to, if you're selling it a 1031 exchange property, like an investment property, there is a rider for all of that you need to make sure that you have to accompany your offers and your listing documents. Yeah, Kara talking about Southern Utah Title has a good system. Yeah, Kara's purchased a couple investment properties, which is awesome. So she knows once you've gone through it, once you've bought the hardest part is your first property for sure. Once you've gone through it, you get really good at it. And then you start to understand it a little bit more. And also you understand maybe like what it's like for them as the investor, what they go through and the gut check that they get when, when they're making a purchase. So no, it's totally good. Let's see what else. How would we find a rent person in our area? So if your brokerage doesn't have a rental property company, so like I work at KW and we have leasing agents at my brokerage. So if you don't have one, I would just look at somebody in your area that actually has a good amount of investment properties that they manage, and then start calling them and see about their recommendations. Any brokerages that you work with or people that you like in your industry and ask them if they have a rental leasing property. There's a couple in our town that acquired a whole bunch. So they have a ton, but they don't have like the best reputation. So I don't love that. Like if you don't have a good reputation, why would I want to refer you? So I kind of put those leasing agents on the hook with me because that's my name. I'm sending my investor to them, So that's a good question. You want to make sure that you do your homework and you call around and interview them to say, hey, I'd love to send you business. I'm going to need information on properties. I'm a local real estate agent, but I'd like to know what your past performance is and what your history is and anything that you can send me, any client referrals or recommendations that you can refer to me so that I can follow up on you and kind of see how it went. Also knowing what their process is, like do they screen their people? Do they give them background checks? Do they give them credit checks? That kind of stuff. You'd want to ask that stuff. Let's see, make sure I'm getting all these questions. Okay, so 35%, yes, it's for expenses. And let's do one together. I'm going to be be a champ here and share my screen on a whiteboard. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so this particular property, the reason why I wanted to do this one is because my daughter purchased a property and it was $136,000, okay? And it was a townhouse. And for those of you that work with first-time home buyers, she was a first-time home buyer. These younger people, it just depends on like what market you're in, of course. But just so you all know, she qualified with $13 an hour. So she made $13 an hour and qualified for a $136,000 property. And she put $6,000 down. So she just had the 3.5% down. Okay, so at $136,000 is the price. The rents were $900 when she purchased it. And so if we take the rents times 12, hopefully everyone's doing this with me so that you get it. That is equal to 10,800, right? So what we're going to do there is then we're going to subtract the 35% for expenses and make sure you hit equals. Did everybody get 10,700? Yeah, what are you saying? The what?
35%, is that for the 35% of that 10,800?
Yes. So the rents are 900 times it by the 12 months. So that's 1080. Sorry, that's wrong, right? 1080. That's wrong. Stand by. I was right. 10,800. And then you're going to minus the 35%. 70/20, right? That's why you have to hit equals, because that otherwise you get messed up and it would have been like 3,800 or something like that, whatever that number was. So now if you take 70/20 and divide it by the purchase price, 136,000, you get a 5.16 cap rate. That makes sense? Anyone have questions on that? I did. Well, that's the best I can do there. Let's see. So it'd be 12 months rent. So 12 months times by the rent amount. And we're going to minus 35%. It equals, and then we're going to divide it by the price. Want to screenshot that? Take a photo of it. There you go. That is the way you'll figure out what your cap is. Here's what's kind of even more exciting. She's owned it for 2 years. Oh, whoa. So I told you I wasn't very savvy here. Whew. So she's owned it for 2 years. And let's do what it is now. 189,000 is what they're selling for. 12 months rent is $1,250. By the way, she refinanced it for $400 less, which is crazy. Doesn't matter, just extra information. What is her current cap rate? I'll wait while you all do it. Let's see if we all get the same number. What'd y'all get? I can't see my chat box when I'm in this. Makes me crazy. What'd you get? Go ahead, Jessica. You're muted again. I can't hear you.
Okay, I'm not sure if I did this correctly, but I still did it at the original purchase price, right?
Yeah, you can. So yeah. So I just ran it this way, like for you to see like how different the market can be.
Right.
Like the higher the purchase price goes up, the less the cap rate can be, right?
So, well, I took divide it by, or minus 35%.
Yeah.
And then do I divide it by 136? Because that's what the
Yeah, you can do it by 136 and that would show you what she's realizing, right? But like if you, sorry, I wasn't very clear. If you put it to market,
Oh,
if you put it to market, that's what it would be. But yeah, so what did you get for what she's realizing
that's
now?
what cap rate would be now, which would be 7.16.
Okay, so in here I'm telling you that like right now we're experiencing this crazy market, right? If there was a 7% cap on the market, like people would go nuts over it, right? So it's kind of nice to know that let me stop sharing my screen. It's kind of nice to know that she owns a property. The reason why we do these numbers is, let's just say like we're in a crazy market. And so obviously her rents went up and her property value went up. But the reason why we pay so much attention to the cap rate is we want them to buy at a good rate so that no matter what market we're in, an investor has done they have bought a property that's solid. So if this market drops out and her property value goes down by $30,000, she's still good, right? That's how you know when you've made a good purchase. When your property can withstand or withstand whatever's going on in the current market conditions. Because if you've noticed, investors don't really care which market they sell in, right? I mean, they're just in an exchange, but it's because you make your money when you make your purchase. You don't ever realize it when you sell it. You make it when you make your purchase. That's when you made the money. So selling our investors their properties is super important to understand the cap rate so that you make sure that they're buying at a rate that will withstand any market and will make them money long term. Because here, I mean, even if her property value goes down 50 grand, she's made money, you know, and she was able to, you know, lower her payment and put $400 extra in her pocket every month. And I mean, it just becomes a good, solid decision. So I'll give you let me see if there's any questions from that. Anybody have any questions from that? How do you check the market average on cap rates? I might've missed it. Totally fine, Sheree. Go through your past sales in the last 30 or 60 days, depending on your marketplace. I mean, we didn't have very many because our market is so dwindled to nothing. So go through the last 30 or 60 days and run the cap rates on everything that has sold, and then you'll have a good market average. So when you're talking to your investors, you can say right now, our current cap that we're getting after 35% expenses is 4%. Okay. Let's see. Oh, we couldn't hear Jessica. Sorry, Melinda. Okay. Yes. So, okay, hopefully that answers everyone's questions before I kind of go into it. So here's an interesting thing. So one of the things that was really big and kind of an eye-opener for me was I worked for a guy who I was his buyer's agent. So he sold a piece of ground for 1.2 million. So I had to, and he had me do, once he sold the property, I had to help the investor go buy properties. So this is my specialty. Of course, they gave it to me. So I'm like, okay, good. So I actually went into another marketplace where I know they have good rentals. I love Cedar City, that's just north of us. And we purchased a bunch of single family duplexes and I reinvested that money. At the time, like an average sales price there was like 170,000, which was really, really low. It is very, very hard to spend 1.2 million on $170,000. It's a really great problem to have, but it was really difficult. So I ended up having to just cold call and see if any of the investors were looking for something to sell. But what I did was he ended up purchasing right around 7 duplexes from me with cash and whatever else he kind of scrambled together, his 1.2. And now here we are. That was in 2010, 10 years later, and he's doubled on his properties. They're all worth like 335, 350,000 now. And he's raised the rents from 750 is what they started at, but now he's at 1,200. He probably could raise them even more because they're 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage on both sides. So the idea is I did my homework before and I told him, this is how we figured this out. Over time, it's going to sustain. And he'll never buy another property again without me. Like literally called me and I'm like in his will that I have to sell all of his properties. No one can do anything without me. So when you have that kind of confidence behind you and you know how to figure out what the market average is and you know how to do a cap rate so that when you get on the appointment, you shine, like seriously, they will work with you forever. It's just getting through that initial sales call when you're talking to them, getting them on board with the fact that you're not face to face. So my recommendation is to always have an appointment, set an appointment. I don't meet with buyers ever unless we come into the office for an appointment, because I want to go through this exercise with them. And I'll tell them, let me just show you how I figure out cap rates. And you just tell them, we have hundreds of properties that come through my desk every day. There is no way that I could sit down and figure out everybody's rate of return and call all these agents and find out what the utilities are. There's just no way. We have to have a formula. Okay. So one more thing about the cap rate. My favorite part is when they say, I manage it myself. Okay, good. I love it when they say that even more, because my numbers are super conservative, that I've already calculated in that 35% for them to have a property management company manage it. So I tell them I run very, very conservative numbers on that 35%. So if you're running yours at 20%, let's just for fun run the numbers my way and see where we're at, because I'll bet you, and they're always interested to know if they made a good buy or not based on my formula. So it's kind of nice because you're just establishing rapport and showing them, yeah, great, you purchased all these at 6%, fantastic. And now you know my formula works. And it's a very quick way that we can get through things, okay? So the other thing I wanted to tell you was properties 1970 or older, 40%. Run your numbers at 40%. There's a lot more maintenance. There's a lot more problems that happen with properties that are old. So we take 40% off the top. Let your investors know you do that. They'll be like, what? Yes, because we're conservative. Unless that property has been completely gutted down to the electrical and the plumbing, you've got to cover yourself, and you're just going to let him know that you're working for him. And that shows him that, you're going to make sure that he's not going to be having any surprises that he can't afford along the way. Has to be a super solid good buy. Any questions on the cap rates? Any question, like, really, do you see how that fork in the road question, like, how many properties do you own? And then if this is their first time investor, will dictate where that conversation is going to go, right up in the beginning in your pre-qualification phase. And then if they don't own a property and they're not going to be doing a 1031 exchange, make sure you ask, is this going to be cash or is this going to be financed? So you can make sure they have the appropriate down amount of money. If they're not pre-qualified, get them to a lender. Hopefully you guys don't shop without having a pre-qualification letter and or an agency agreement. My investors are always like, if you bring it to me, I'll look at it. I'm not going to sign with any other agent. If you bring it to me, I'll look at it. And then I say to them, okay, great. So if I bring you a 6%, like, I'm going to send you over a agency agreement along with it. So what if I can show you a 6% and it's a property that you're interested in and you'll sign that with me? Yep, I will. Okay, good. That's okay with me. I'll settle for that. But you're not going to ever get that offer. I'm not going to send you the property till you sign me the agency agreement. I'll tell them I found one, but because your time is worth something, investors can waste your time, especially the ones that are the looky-loos, are like, I just want 20% equity. I want 20% equity too. I really do. And I don't mean to like laugh at that, but it's kind of like, yeah, in our market, it's just unheard of. Like, good luck. You're going to pay 20% over right now. I feel like, because it's so fast, but really it's how you pre-qualify them. That's going to be the biggest difference. And then circling them in into letting them know this is how we have to figure it, because we see so many properties. Any questions about that? Yes. Go ahead, Jessica. Let me turn up. I can't hear you very well.
Can you speak to that a little bit more? I guess I don't understand when you say they want something with 20% equity.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit better for me, or clear, so it makes more sense to me?
Yeah. So typically they're looking for a fix and flip, because they just want you to do the legwork to find properties like that. So my follow-up question to them would be, so when you're looking on your own, how do you determine if it has 20%? Like, what is the base? How do you figure out the properties? Like, we need to know what standard they're qualifying these, because they bought homes before. Like, if this is something that they do. So tell me what how do you figure if the property has 20%? Just so I'm clear on how you're evaluating your properties. knowing how to evaluate property is going to be your ace in the hole for real. Like it's how you are able to gain the rapport so that they know that you know what you're talking about. And then once they make a purchase with you, I'm always sick when they want to sell them. I'm like, what? Like if they sell too early and I know it, they kick themselves. And I tell them all the time, don't sell. They're like, I know I have to. My wife hates that property. She wants to get rid of it. All right. Like right now I could call like 20 of them and go, what the heck? You should have freaking hold on to it. Why did you sell it? You know, because they didn't make any money on it or they sold too soon. So just, you know, just knowing that you got them in and that they could sell in any market. I have confidence in knowing that when I sold them an investment property, no matter what happens, they'll do fine in any market. And that's the goal. They're zero risk. They're always looking for their risk. And they want to know that they're protected and that you're watching out for their money. And then once you close on one, the best thing that you can do, like in this market right now, and you're not trying to like pat yourself on the back, but if you want to follow up with an investor or somebody that you sold a house to, check in with them after and just call them up and say, hey, have you noticed what's going on with the market? I'm so glad you bought when you did. Because that just reaffirms in their mind that you sold them a great property. In a roundabout sort of way, you're kind of patting yourself on the back, but you're also asking them, how's it working out for you? I mean, that little property my daughter bought is insane that they're selling for $189 because there's no way I would live over there for $189. But hey, you know, so there's a buyer for everything, right? But she's making good money on it and she's putting $400 more in her pocket every single month, and someone else is paying off her mortgage and she only made $13 an hour. That's the point to be made, is that everyone can start being an investor at a young age. It's something that I counsel my first-time home buyers every single time, because they're young and they're this millennial age, right? They're way more savvy than we are with our money. And I tell them, you're going to ask me in 3 or 5 years to sell this house. And I'm going to tell you, don't, please don't, but you're going to ask me to, and that's fine. Like I'm planting the seed that they're going to call me to resell, right? Like I'm planting the seed, but then I'm going to tell them, because you should hang on to it. This will be a really great rental and it will pay for your kids' college. I promise you. I know, because I'm paying for 2 of them. You know, but they don't listen. Some of them don't, some of them do, but it's our job to explain it to them, and it's our job to help them and give them the information, because they can't see past that, right? They don't know because they've never bought them before. Anyone else have any other questions? I knew this one would be, I know it's boring. I guess maybe people think the numbers are boring. I think investments are super fun. And if you can get into that realm and you can really start being an expert in that, you'll be surprised. I have my go-to agents that I know list them. And when I have an investor that's ready to buy, like some of my guys in my back pocket, I'll call them first and say, who do you have that's talking about selling? Because they're having conversations with their investors too. Who do you have that's making a move in their portfolio? It's all about the networking and the relationships that you're building with the other agents in your community and in your towns. You got to be putting out feelers. Like right now, I'm telling my investors to get some money liquid, because I feel like when the change happens, when the market shifts a bit, there'll be some things to be had. There'll be some good pickups that you'll be able to buy. It won't be like the recession. I went through that, so it's not like that. But I definitely feel that there's going to be some pressure, and there's going to be some good pickups for investors along the way, based on what we're seeing. If you think about it, just a real quick thing on the market, what's going on in the recession, homeowners had the opportunity to refinance, to lower their payment if they got in trouble, right? These buyers right now are buying at 2.5%. There's no saving grace here on their mortgages, okay? So just something to keep in mind when you're watching the market. You start to see your inventory climbing, we're starting to hit into a shift. Right now, ours is dwindling. If we have 200 homes on our market right now, I'd be shocked. So anyone else? Let's see. How have you dealt with such low inventory, not just with investors, but buyers in general? That's such a great question. So I talked a little bit about this last meeting, always coming from a place of positivity. I know I'm an aggressive agent and I know I'm going to write solid offers. And I'm going to do everything that I can for them to get it accepted. So just having some strategy in place and being really upfront and honest with them that, hey, by the way, there was 2 houses that came up that was within your criteria. So we are going to either be making multiple offers. So don't fall in love with any of them. I mean, like all of them, right? Like we really have to be honest and upfront with them about it. But here's the way I look at it is I go to Flex every day and I look and see how many properties are being listed every day. And then I look at how many properties are going under contract every day. Somebody is selling. Somebody's selling. I just need it to be me one time. So that's how I keep a mental positive aspect about it, is because I know I can get a deal. I can find a deal. I can find them a house. And I'm good at prospecting, so I could probably find something off market if I went and knocked doors. If I really am desperate for something, I'll go knock it. It's fine. I'm not above it. But I feel like you really have to be very good at giving strategy about writing offers. Last night, I wrote in my Facebook group a situation that I had happen yesterday because I had 19 offers on one property. Crazy. So there were things that the buyer's agents could have done to get those properties, to get their clients' offers accepted, and they didn't take advantage of it. Or maybe their clients weren't willing to do it. But we have to be having those conversations with our clients about releasing earnest money once offers are accepted, doing away with an appraisal if they've got enough money down. Like we have to have these conversations because we're just not in a market, in my area, we're not in a market where you're going to be the only offer on a property. It's going to happen not very often unless you're like, I don't know. I think you have to get over 1.5 in our marketplace, which would be a higher end home in our area. That's a great question. Let's see, do you ever network with, build a relationship with any financial advisors or anyone who have clients to refer you who are good investor clients? So I find investor clients just in the unoccupied owners for duplexes. So I have my favorite subdivisions I like and do a mail out, do a letter, do whatever it is that you like to stay in touch with them. You can't go knock a duplex because they're not the sellers, right? They're the renters. So that's more like a farming thing that you would need to do and start establishing yourself there. You could reach out to financial planners for sure and ask them for their business. That's definitely something that you can do. I've never done that. I just have cold called. I've cold called lists of multiple unit owners for years. And, you know, townhomes are still a really great investment for new investors. And you can always call those lists too. I don't know. I like to call over the phone. It's a lot more efficient for me. And then once you know what you're talking about, it makes it so much easier to say, you know, hi, I'm Nicole Briggs. I'm just giving you a call. Looks like you own a property over there on whatever street. It looks like it's a duplex. Just was wondering if you'd ever thought about selling it. No, it's working out great. It's worked out great. Well, good for you. How long have you owned it? Well, I've owned it for 20 years. 20 years. I mean, notice how I'm repeating, reaffirming everything he's saying. 20 years, that's fantastic. Good for you. So let me just ask you, do you currently own any others? Well, I got 2 or 3 more. Oh, good. All right. Well, the market is crazy. Just was wondering if you were in the market to purchase any more. We are, or have you thought about selling any of them? We're looking for investment properties right now because we've got tons of buyers that are looking to make a move in their portfolio. Just was wondering if that's something you've ever thought about. Well, I'm not sure. Okay. Well, if there was a way that I could sit down and show you how we could actually probably capitalize on your portfolio and earn you a little bit more money, would that be something you'd be willing to take a look at? Sure. It'll take about 10, 15 minutes. When's a good time that we can meet? I'm free tomorrow. I've got afternoons, or tomorrow morning, I've got a morning appointment available. You know, you really just have to have that conversation with them and not be afraid to meet. And then prepare for the appointment before you go out. And what you'd prepare for is your market stats. Our market is selling at this. You're currently getting this, or you've owned it for 20 years. You're at the end of your depreciation schedule, you know, or you paid it off, so you're not getting any more write-offs. Like, how are your taxes this year? Are you needing a tax write-off? We need to consult your accountant. But what I know is if you're at the end of your schedule and that you've got it paid off, you're missing out on a little bit of money. And maybe you don't need it. Well, that's fine too, you know, but I'm there to offer the information and to give the advice, right? Hopefully that helps. Let's see. What are some of those things that you as a seller's agency are setting offers apart? Earnest money getting released at acceptance. That would be part of it, depending on, and maybe that's not all of it, maybe it's just a portion of it, it's fine. Because I think that really it depends on the property, but if the property is pretty decent, are you really gonna say no? I mean, you walked it, you know, is the AC, was it hot in there? Was it cold in there? You know, I mean, aside from the HVAC, how much in a roof, we have bar tile roofs here, so the roof isn't gonna be bad, you know, more than likely here. But you know, how, when you're writing 15 offers and this is your 15th offer and you're getting sick of it, you pretty much are willing to throw in the towel and just say, hey, I'm willing to let my earnest money go hard and I'll take my gamble, because the gamble of $5,000 is nothing near the $330,000 purchase that you're making, you know, and they're not going to take your $5,000 unless they accept you. So it's not like you lost it, right? But without doing something to set you apart, you have zero chance. We got to get your foot in the door. So releasing earnest money is one thing we saw. We're seeing release or not having the appraisal. If you have good money down, then the lender is actually the one that's going to give you the okay for that, if it's okay to not have an appraisal condition. So make sure that that is something that you would chat with your lender, but making sure there's no appraisal contingency. That's how you beat a cash offer. And then you go ahead and write your letter why your buyers need to buy that home over an investor. And I'd use the word investor. My clients are a family. This is a family neighborhood. They've been looking and they've been writing offers on 15 other homes. We would love to beat out an investor offer because we're removing our appraisal condition as well, you know? So you want to be sure to put in a letter as to why you want to beat out an investor who's got cash coming in that could take it from you. And then the other thing is the escalation clauses. Those are really expedited exponentially, I mean, gone up. You used to be able to just do $1,000 over asking price to the highest offer. I was just not going to cut it anymore. Like I'm seeing $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 over list price. And then having a cap on how much, if it doesn't appraise, they'll cap off at like paying $10,000 out of pocket over appraised value if it doesn't close. So those are some strategies that I'm seeing, which would have worked. Sadly, it would have worked on one of our transactions that we had. And in northern Utah, we saw some crazy stuff on their addendums. It's always nice to do business in other little areas because we all kind of get stuck in our rut and we all know how each other writes offers. I mean, I know how people write offers here, but I know who I'm going up against. I know how they write them. I pay attention. But it was interesting to see how things were going 4 hours away from us, which is why we get on these calls, right? So that we can learn from each other and know what's going on across the country. Let's see. What else is someone else? At what year do you feel home is old enough for 40%? 1970 or older. 1970. I mean, we might be creeping up to 1975 now, probably 1975 or older. I think once you have to have that lead paste paint addendum to 1979 or older, you may want to consider somewhere around there. But yeah, 40%, that's a big chunk of change off of your rents. What list do you cold call? So I actually worked for a company. I worked at a brokerage that they paid somebody to create a, what's it called? Non-occupant owner list. So I don't know if they got that from a title company. I don't know how they acquired these lists, but we had some, I'm pretty sure there's companies out there that will create those lists for you, but they had to pay for them. And then we just kept them in our brokerage and prospected out of them. I mean, what would the brokerage have to lose? He didn't care. He just wanted one of us to close one, right? So yeah, that's where we ended up getting those lists. And then any other cold calling, I just did for sell by owners, expireds. I actually liked for sell by owners. That was a decent market for me. I didn't love expireds. I felt like that was really cutthroat for me. That's my personal opinion. But the thing about expireds is they've already made the decision to sell. So it's actually kind of your perspective on what you felt comfortable with. To me, in this marketplace, working with a for sale by owner, all we have to do is tell them we can list it and we can probably get another $10,000 or $15,000 more than they are because they don't have the exposure we do. So a for sale by owner can be a little bit of an easier sell, especially in a fast market like this, because all they care about is a commission, right? All they care about is making sure that they are not paying an agent. So you take out a net sheet, you show them how you can make them more. And if not, they can go ahead and cancel the listing, but you'll probably have an offer in 2 weeks. For sub owners are kind of easy in this market. let's see. Good time to refinance. Well, right now, I mean, with what, 2.5% or 2%, I feel like you can, whenever you're able to refinance to bring down the amount, and depending on what kind of loan you have and how it's structured, just depends on what the cost is, your closing cost to refinance. But I would always look at anytime you can get maybe a whole full point or 1.5 off of your percentage off of your interest rate. That's probably worth your while, especially if you've got mortgage insurance and it's going to get rid of it. You know what's interesting though? At one point on my own personal house, to refinance wasn't going to be any less. Like getting rid of mortgage insurance wasn't going to do anything for me. So you really just want to call the lender and ask their advice, or give them a heads up that you're looking to refinance and let you know when it drops to a rate that is going to make sense for you. They'll watch it. They'll call you, at least, especially if you're working with one specifically. That would be my best advice for you newer agents, is get on board with a lender early in your career, and you're just as much their client as your clients are their clients. So when you get in with a good one and they do good business for you, they'll answer your call no matter what. They'll take care of your clients. They'll never sell you out. They'll never make you look bad. So having a really good solid lender in your corner is a really good relationship to build, for sure. I've got one I've worked with for 10 years, and I asked him to stay in business with me when I was split with my partner, and he told me, I'm in business until you quit, Nicole. I'll be with you until you quit. So that's the kind of lender that you want. Okay, anyone else have any other questions? I know, am I going long? Yes, it's 1 o'clock. So I know it's a long class. If you have questions, reach out to me. Like literally, if you want to know how to do, you know, you need help on another problem or another house, or you forget all this and you're like, crap, I'm not getting the right numbers, just send me an email. I'm always available and I'll get right back to you. Or you can DM me on Instagram. I'm pretty active there. And then also in the Facebook group. I love it when you put your questions in there, because then we all learn and then everyone learns from it. So there's no dumb question. Okay. Will you provide any scripting? Sure. For investors? Who is that? Tiffany? Yeah, for like just the initial phone call. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll go ahead and send that out. I'll put together a email and we'll just send it out. Yeah, it might take me a minute, but I'll definitely do that. So yes, no problem. You guys are all welcome. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Nice to see you all. Take care.